that had sparked protests across the country as Kenyans decried over taxation by the government advice. And so even when amendments had been proposed in the finance bill of 2024, and we saw the Kenya Kwanza PG come out and say, you know what, we've decided to drop, tax on bread and motor vehicle tax. And Treasury said just those amendments alone would leave about a 200 billion shilling shortfall. And already we had Kenya Kwanza MP saying, that's what Kenyans want, but choices have consequences. And so we will see massive cuts from major sectors that Kenyans are relying on, including the service sector, including agriculture, education. But many now want to see accountability for what the finance bill of 2023 managed to achieve, how the budget of the current financial year was funded, and where the money went. Is this a conversation that the executive needs to make public with Kenyans now?
It should, Michelle, because all the Kenyans are asking is Article 10 of the Constitution on values and principles of governance. All they are saying is that we want that not just in the Constitution, but in action. And it is within the right of the people to demand accountability from their leaders. It is within every specific right that they have. And when we talk about now the amendments that were made to the finance bill, and I have said that I participated in the public participation after the finance bill got out. I have said it even from this platform, that there are things I did not agree with in that finance bill. First being the motor vehicle tax that we really debated on this platform, right. The tax on bread, and so many other things that we felt were not right. And in all fairness, most, if not 100% of those things were actually dropped. The problem is that it took so long for people to feel listened to that by the time you are dropping them, the conversation had shifted and people did not really even care about it, that they even thought now, they started having doubts and saying, no, even if you have dropped them, there is something inside there that we might not have seen. And so that became the first problem, that it took too long. And then the other problem was, the question also is, when something is obviously unpopular, why would you have it in the first place so that it's dropped? And that also became a subject of I have kept arguing and saying, who even put tax on bread in the finance bill, if not a person who just wanted to tarnish the name of the president? Right. Who put this motor vehicle tax within that finance bill, if not just to tarnish the name of government in totality? So for me, it's about people demanding for their accountability is very right. And part again of the process, and what you've said about people saying you must be able to prepare when these cuts are done, these will be able to affect them. That is also part of the reason we have actually come this far in the process. Because our leaders must learn to talk and explain things to people, not to talk at people. Because we have had situations where leaders want to talk at people and almost threaten people. Because you cannot be able to say, it's almost a threat for you to say, we have dropped these years, but look, wait and see. It's more or less a wait and see conversation. So that is the problem. And that's why I want to even beseech our leaders that, you know what, you must be able to talk with the people. We must have conversations. We must talk to each other and not at each other. And so every time you talk at the people, you just make things even more difficult for the entire government. And unfortunately, and Kenya Kwanza leaders need to understand that the buck rests with the president. Most of the wrong things that they actually do are blamed on the president and nobody else. So when they come out with their arrogance and bravado and talking at the people, the person who suffers the blunt more is the president and the government. And that is the biggest unfortunate thing. So when people demand their accountability, it is right that for us in leadership, you come out and explain to the people to understand the systems of governance and the rationale under which some decisions are made, and for people to understand that we are doing this because of this. I can assure you, Michelle, if we were able to have some of these conversations that were in the finance bill, even before the finance bill came out, we would be able to avoid some of these things that happen. That even before we have some things in the finance bill, could we discuss them as a country? Could we be able to come out and say, look here, we are looking at motor vehicle insurance tax. What are the thoughts of the people before we even go into the finance bill? And so that honesty is what is required. And we also need honesty within our leaders, so that we don't have a situation where people want to have political expediency, because before the finance bill comes out to the people, it has gone, I think, almost 3 stages within the parliament. that parliament has both Kenya Kwanza and Azimio. But when it comes out here, Azimio leaders always behave like they never saw that thing anywhere. They are also seeing it with us. I think that is not always very honest. When you talk about the amendments and that were made in the finance bill, the Azimio leadership actually gave proposed amendments to the finance bill. And almost all their amendments actually sailed through. It is after they read the mood towards the last minute, in the last 48 hours, they feel the conversation is reject. Then they conveniently come out and say they also reject and they don't want the amendments to be part of this. And yet they have already submitted those amendments. That is what I say is political expediency and misuse of the people.
Right.
Just using a situation that exists to take advantage and someone to become popular. That's why I say the Gen Z revolution must be very careful, because political leaders are out to really take credit of it and make hay out of it when the sun shines.
Okay, and Elvis, just borrowing from what advice says, opposition members of parliament at the last minute decided to reject the bill and reject all the clauses on the second committee of the whole house, and the reasoning behind that was that they fronting amendments would be participating in what they termed as a flawed process to begin with. We had feedback from the public there, and we had one Kenyan who says the government does not respect the constitution, and so even the processes that should be, even in something as crucial as the budgeting process, did not follow due process. And so President William Ruto now says that obviously then there will be massive cutting on spending, and there will be then austerity measures. In fact, in his speech, he directed that we reduce expenditure, starting with the office of the executive. And this would touch on the confidential vote that Kenyans have been, talking about. What is 800 billion shillings going to do in confidence? And what is this reduced travel budget and hospitality? The problem is, we've heard this before from the same president, not once, not twice. And many times after we hear that directive, we actually have reports from the Controller of Budget, Auditor General, showing increased spending on travel, on hospitality, on renovations. And so, again, it feels a lot of lack of trust from Kenyans. So when the president directed austerity measures in his speech the other day, what are you expecting to see?
Well, Michelle, thank you very much for that. As you've well put out, the president in his speech directed that there should be austerity measures. But again, it's not unique to see in this country that when the auditor's reports come out, you'll still see the same things, both at national and county levels. You'll always see recurrent expenditure rising every day while development expenditure goes down. We've seen scenarios where in some point, some counties, there were claims that there was no money for development expenditure. So you are surprised, are we electing leaders to just earn salaries and travel and do their thing at the expense of development? That is the big question. And therefore, when the president said that there should be these austerity measures, and of course he mentioned just a few from his office, including what you call the confidential votes and all that, there were so many other things that were just generally spoken that we should still be told how exactly is this austerity measure going to work, because just mentioning it does not mean that ends there. He also said Parliament should follow suit, judiciary should follow suit, but we are not sure about to what extent are they going to do this, and are they going to come out clear and tell the Kenyans that this is what we've done and this is what we are cutting down on and this is what we are doing. Or will we just stay here and then when we start the new financial year, which is from July, we'll still see people traveling out of the country, people holding meetings that should be held in town in different parts of this country, people earning a lot from these kind of engagements? That is the biggest question. So
right.
we really hope that what the president said can be addressed, because if we are able to deal with that, Michelle, I can tell you, we have enough resources to cater for that deficit, that the 200 million. Because look at, for example, the budgets that were put out for the advisors of the president. They were huge budgets. So you're left to wonder, how much does an advisor need to just make sure that they advise the president? 200 million plus, 100 million plus, that is a lot of money, honestly speaking. I think we just need to relook at everything and then go down. And then, of course, we should not cut down on important development budgets. let us look at where we can, on recurrent, on luxury and any other thing. But the development agenda, including education, health, agriculture, I think those should not be touched. Okay. And when money is allocated, let it go into use. Let us not have 10 billion allocated and only 4 billion is used and other money is lost through corruption. Absolutely.
And so then, John, when we talk about the lack of trust between the people and the government, and that has largely cropped up in the current anti-finance bill protests, we go back to that withdrawal of the bill or refusal to sign the bill by President William Ruto, essentially sending it back to Parliament. The Kenyans are skeptical as to whether Parliament will uphold the reservations of the President to delete all the clauses altogether. And so some of the reasons why is because Kenyans have seen parliamentarians become united overnight when it comes to issues of funds that will benefit them or funds that they need for particular causes. And when we talk about austerity measures, these will cut across board, including that county allocation, which has seen counties allocated about 400 billion shillings. We've seen governors contesting that. There was a proposal to increase CDF allocations to counties in the budget, to constituencies. And we had a lot of members of parliament who had already planned themselves and their expenditure with those proposed estimates that had been given in the budget. Are you concerned that there may be that possibility? And we've seen the Speaker of the House saying that any member desirous of negating the President's reservations is required to marshal a vote of at least 2/3 of members of the National Assembly. Are you skeptical that they may just come together and pass this bill?
Michelle, if you critically analyze the situation in the country now and this proposed financial bill, behind the scenes, you would see that we are also holding placards saying IMF, Bretton Woods. If you are a student of economics, you know very well that we have borrowed a lot. And any financial institution doesn't go slow on you when they need their money back. This part of this financial bill is a push from those people that we owe money. And they want their money back. So the president is in a very desperate situation now because the government in the first year, he was supposed to do robust economic recovery measures by turning around the economy, making sure that the resources that were allocated to various departments were working. Then by then he would have generated money from other sources other than taxes, so that this would have mollified the situation of the debt situation that we have. But he didn't do that, so the government is not generating any other money apart from taxes. So the taxes have to go high to maintain, first of all, the loans that we have, to maintain recurrent budget, and also to throw money into different ministries. So this is the biggest headache that the president has. So in as much, if you look at his speech the other day, in as much as we are pushing for this bill to be rejected in totality, he is deeply defending it because he doesn't have. He has been advised all across the board by his internal economic advisors plus the external, and this is the best way he can raise money this year. So this is a burden on him. When you talk about the trust of the people, it's just corruption. These demonstrations have opened a Pandora's box, that a discussion that has never been touched. The misuse of public funds by our political class is annoying, you know. Even the money that goes to the counties. If you go to, let's take the county where I come from, Migori County. Migori County is like 100% agricultural county. We have enough, we have a very virgin lands that have never been tilled before. The people are using traditional ways of doing agriculture. If our governors were sincere, if you put 1 billion only, forget about the billions they are getting every year, just 1 billion, and you provide simple techniques of agriculture to the farmers. Because now the main agricultural crop in Migori County is sugarcane. And sugarcane is holding lands for 18 months. If you can just provide simple solutions to horticultural crops that can only take 3 months to grow, and then there is a lake there. If that lake, if the silt can be removed, and then the lake is clean, then there will be serious wild catch, because this is what the people depend on a day-to-day basis. So instead of putting money into areas where you can get huge returns by just using little amount of money, the money goes to their pockets. Immediately the money moves from the treasury to the ministries. There is a race by politicians to siphon that money into their pockets. In 2 months, that money is disappeared. So we have no trust in this government, to be very sincere, based on the corruption. They are using the old scripts to manage a very informed generation. We know what is happening. People can go quickly online and know what you are wearing, the shoes you are wearing. The other day you heard that governors are buying apartments in Dubai. Dubai is one of the most expensive cities of the world. Only the top rich people of the world buy apartments in Dubai. So if these monies that we collect is not a lot of money if you want to put it into a national economic recovery. But if it is put in the hands of a few people, then it's a lot of money for them. They live a flourish life. They live a life that is beyond. And how do you pride in being an opulent person among the poor people? If you can even see in the villages that people are nutritionally disadvantaged, people are suffering. So we have no trust in this government. We are not stupid. We can see how the monies are being misused. So if this door is open, we are going to ask critical questions to the national government. Then we are going to have very serious critical questions to our senators. What are they doing? All right, then we are going to have a very critical questions to the MPs. Now their neck is on the line. But where are the senators? Where are the women?
I'm glad you bring that up, because just this morning, a section of senators have thwarted an attempt by the Senate leadership to adjourn House sessions following that invasion of Parliament by protesters on Tuesday. And they voted 19 against 9 to defeat that committee chaired by the Speaker, Amason Kingi. And the argument here is that this is the time that the House needs to sit and provide solutions for the country. Advice. As the Senate does that, the National Assembly is on recess and in fact will only consider President William Ruto's reservations on the bill earliest 23rd July. When they come back from recess. A rushed decision. In fact, it was the first order of business, if you ask me, when you're watching just before they began debate on the amendment of the clauses. And that begs a huge question of, again, is our leadership in tune with what's happening on the ground? What do you think of the fact that Parliament is on recess, will not be recalled for a special sitting on the finance bill? There's no urgency, so to speak.
I think, first of all, I applaud the Senate for the reasoning that if there is any time that they needed to sit, that time is actually now. Right. So that you do not run away from the crisis when the crisis is here, because then you provide loophole, and every time there is a lacuna anywhere, anyone can take advantage and anyone can lead people whichever direction. So I agree and applaud that decision by the Senate, because that is the right thing to do. The rushing of the parliamentarians to their decision, I would also want to attribute it to maybe a bit of fear. And, they had just been tensed up the other day. And maybe there was a lot of distraction that had also happened in Parliament. So I think maybe they must have reasoned more with their emotions more than with the reality. As it is. But the important thing is, of course, the decision is already made. There's nothing much you can be able to do about it on this panel. But then, since the Senate has made that decision, and we have had, and it's the history, that the Senate all over the world is supposed to be the elder brother of the government. It's always supposed to be the elder brother. It is supposed to be the advisory wing. We need to see that in our Senate, so that we hope they are not just making political statements so that they are popular. It was so easy for them to also make that decision, Michelle, with all honesty, because Parliament had just suffered its blunt. And so this was a very convenient decision. Remember, they were not part of the decision making on the finance bill. So it can also, but I want to give them a benefit of doubt that they made this decision as an elder brother. And with that decision as it is, we need to now start seeing the implications of that decision. We need to start seeing them speak in a manner that unifies the country, brings all of us together, advances a conversation, and is able to now be in a position where now the country can be able to move forward.
Right.
Because the most important thing we need right now, Michelle, is the country must move. I've always said that we as a republic, the reason why we can be able to have our demonstrations, the reason why we can be able to get out and speak our mind is because somebody somewhere fought so hard for us to come this far. This country has not always been like that. Somebody fought for us to come this far, for us to be the republic that we are today. And so the first thing we must be able to protect is we must protect the reality that we are a republic at the level that we are, that we can actually have a conversation. Because once we are able to lose the republic, then we lose everything. Right. So the Senate must be able to push the conversation that retains the republic.
Absolutely, and the leaders must be smack in the middle of this conversation.
Sure.
Elvis, in this conversation, this was just this morning, the Nyamira Senator Kongo Omogeni says that adjourning the Senate would imply cowardice on the part of lawmakers who are supposed to give direction during such moments. What are your thoughts on just that decision to keep sitting and provide solutions at a time when the country is in crisis, and the fact that, you know, the National Assembly itself really has clearly made the decision that they will finish their recess for the next 1 month and come back at the end of the month?
Michelle, I think it was unfortunate when I saw that the National Assembly had brought in a motion to actually bring back the recess. You know, the recess was supposed to begin next week. They brought it back first to begin today, and then again they went ahead and brought in another motion to bring it back to Wednesday. After now what happened on Tuesday. After
hurriedly passing the bill.
It was very unfortunate because they met just to discuss two issues. One, the bringing back of recess to Wednesday, and again not even after a full day, just after half a day in session. And two, to now pass the KDF deployment conversation. It was very unfortunate. And therefore, it is at this point, at the time of crisis, that we really need these leaders to be there. What Kenyans and the young people of Kenya are asking these leaders is to do their job. If you are expected to do your job, please do it rightfully. When they were invading the premises, which was an unfortunate incident, it's because the leaders have not shown that they are able to do their job as is expected. Three fundamental roles: oversight, legislation, and representation. Where representation already, the people feel the leaders are misrepresenting them in the National Assembly. When you talk about legislation, Michelle, I can tell you for a fact, there are many leaders in this parliament who have been there even for 3 terms or 4 terms that have never raised any bill or any motion as independent members. You'd only hear them during the finance bill, and of course when they are voting yes, if they are on the government side, or no, when they are on the opposition side. They are not doing their job, and that is what the people need. And so I think that statement is just a wake-up call to all leaders, that this is the time that these leaders are needed, and they should take up actually. In fact, I expect and I hope the Speaker of the National Assembly can again call back the members of Parliament so that they can transact on very important businesses. And I hope this time they will do it independently and without any coercion.
All right, I'm not sure there will be no coercion because the hit on the members of Parliament is getting higher out here. What are your final comments, John?
Michelle, this government, the way the things are running, when we wrote the new constitution, you could see that a lot of progressive people ran to the Senate. They didn't go to the governor. Because actually, if you go to this constitution was borrowed heavily from the American Constitution. We are just a miniature, a small America.
Right.
And if you go to America, the most powerful people are the senators, because they're the people who overlook at what the government is doing, what the governor is doing. But our Senate is dead. Nowadays, I am a millennial, and I'm also a Gen Z at heart. we never watch these Senate debates or Parliament debates, because let's take an example. For example, let's say the fertilizer scandal. Automatically, before even you start watching the Senate interrogation, you just know that money will exchange hands and this thing will go nowhere. You know? So this is a failed government, because they are so much on the political side than the economic side. What is so difficult in providing oversight? What is so difficult? You go to the government, you do know that every senator has 2 offices. One here in Nairobi and another one in his county. What is so difficult to go and look at the governor's budget of that year and then follow through if the money is being used to fulfill that budget? What Kenyans do is to get professionals to do the documents. If you go to any county, you will find very beautiful feasibility studies. You will find very beautiful economic plans. But when the money arrives in the governments, then they divert the money through tenderpreneurs to their own accounts. You see? So the Senate has really failed this country. And it is obvious that now you see that every senator, after serving his terms, he wants to be governor. He wants to enjoy the loot, what the governor was doing. So for me, my parting shot is, what I think deeply after analyzing all this situation, every generation must find their vision, fulfill it or betray it. The generations before us had a vision, and human beings are limited. We can't victimize them for so long. The Jaramogi Oginga Odingas and the independent fighters, their mission was to get the white man out of their country and have internal independence and internal governance.
All right.
And now they achieved that mission. The second generation is the second liberators who have provided this platform for us, the freedom and the multi-party democracy. Our generation, that is the millennials and Gen Z, what is our mission in life? What is our vision? Our mission is to move this country from an underdeveloped country to a developed country. So what I think is that you cannot put old wines, new wines in old skins. Right. You cannot teach old dogs new tricks. I think we are learned enough. We are capable of leading this country. We have started a revolution. Let's organize ourselves and take over this country and run it for the benefit of our future and the future of our children. That's a good point
to end it. Many thanks. That is John Yahya Nene. He is a political strategist with the Labour Party of Kenya. Also with us in studio today is Advice Mundalo, who is the National Youth Chairman of the Jubilee Party, as well as Youth Advocate Elvis Wambura, giving us the insights on the week in review. A look at the top stories that have made headlines in the country this week. And that's where we wind up the conversation as we keep an eye on the developing situation in the country. Many thanks for watching this morning. My name is Michelle Gele Odhiambo. Good morning.
When it's a Saturday, there's only one entertainment show in East and Central Africa. Arena 254. Join Aisha Wanjiku